Hello, my friends. This is Otaku Cook, and today I'm making spicy Tantanmen. So, let's get right into it. The first thing we need to do is blanch and clean our chicken bones. It's a simple process to remove most of the impurities that are in these bones. So, all you have to do is put your chicken bones in cold water. By cold, I mean room temperature water, and then slowly let it come to a boil. When the water comes to a boil, remove the chicken bones. But don't throw away the water because we are going to use that for blanching the chicken feet as well. I'm using 300 grams of chicken bones and about 50 grams of chicken feet in this recipe. You have to remember one thing. As soon as the water comes to a boil, you need to remove these bones. Once you remove them, add the chicken feet. But this time, once the water comes to a boil, let them boil for about 3 to 4 minutes. Also, once you remove them, make sure that you wash and rinse these bones and feet thoroughly. After blanching and cleaning your bones, discard this water and replace it with clean water. Now it's the time to cook these bones. Add these bones and feet back into the water and let it come to a roaring boil. Now I'm using a pressure cooker for the sake of saving time, and if you are smart, you will do it as well. Making ramen broth is time consuming. It sometimes takes about 18 to 24 hours for making good broth, but that is made from pork bones. When it comes down to chicken, the time is reduced significantly. It can go up to 5 to maybe 6 hours. But if you have to save time, you can do it via pressure cooker, especially for making chicken bone based broths. That's why I would highly recommend to use pressure cookers while you make any kind of ramen. This will save a significant amount of your time. Also, before I forget, please add some pork belly fat before the water comes to a boil. Once the water starts boiling, remove the scum that is foaming on the top of the broth. This will help remove the impurities and prevent the broth from tasting funky. You need to remove the scum before you shut the lid, because once you do that, you won't be able to open it for about 1.5 hours. So this is your best chance for removing any impurities and scum and not letting your broth get spoiled. Once your broth is nice and clean, add your lid and let it cook for about 1.5 hours. And by that I mean 1.5 hours to be cooked under a lid. The cooking process will still exceed more than that time once we add our aromatics and vegetables. Talking about aromatics and vegetables, it's time to prepare them until our broth is cooking. For the vegetables, all you need is one onion cut in half. I'm cutting it in quarters just to cook it easily. A quarter of a cabbage, and ginger and garlic. Ginger, just a big chunk would do. Just crush it, and the same with garlic. Half a bulb of garlic would do just fine. Crush these two ingredients together. After 1.5 hours, as you can see, the broth has started turning white. Now this is a good thing because the fat has started to emulsify with the water. Now you can start adding your vegetables and aromatics in it. After adding your vegetables and aromatics, make sure that you push your broth down a little. The fat that you have added needs to break down more. Also, the meat that is still attached to the chicken feet and chicken bones as well. You need to make sure that all of these things release as much flavor as possible. So, push it down a little. And once you're done with that, let it come to a boil for about 45 minutes to an hour. Now, like I said, once you put the lid on, doesn't mean that the cooking process is over. Now, let's talk about the seafood flavoring that we are going to add in our broth. Now, I have soaked 1 cup of dried shrimp and a strip of kombu seaweed for 3 hours. After soaking them, you need to let it come to a boil and discard the kombu. Then add the water with the dried shrimps into your broth. The dried shrimp is a replacement for bonito flakes, which honestly are extremely expensive and very hard to get in my country. The other best option is to use dried seafood, which is very easy to get where I am from. So you can use any dried fish at your disposal. I'm using dried shrimp, but you could use anything like Bombay duck or even mackerel. What dried fish does is it helps to add a boost of umami in your broth as well as give it a base of subtle saltiness as well as helps to round the flavor up. So all you would require to season it is the tare and you don't have to add any salt in it. Speaking of tare, let's make it. All you have to do is soak your kombu strip in 1 cup of soy sauce, half a cup of mirin and half of sake. Then let it come to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, switch off the flame and remove the kombu seaweed. And there you go, your tare is ready. Now the total amount of cooking time for your broth is about 2.5 hours. Once you're done cooking that, now it's time to strain it. Now, as you can see, I don't really have a big strainer, so I have to make do with what I have. That's why we have this small, puny little strainer. But the point is to strain any particles or big pieces of vegetables or meat that are in the broth. Once done straining our broth, now we can focus on the spicy part of our Tantanmen, which comes from red bean paste, also known as tobanjang. Now the recipe that I am making is not the authentic Tantanmen because the authentic one requires miso as well as tobanjang. But the miso and tobanjang both are extremely expensive, so I had to pick one of them, and I picked tobanjang because, well, that was the most important ingredient for getting the spice, and since I am a spicy dude, I thought it was a better choice. But if you can get a hand on white miso, you can, of course, improve this dish, and your dish might actually taste better than mine. Now that that's out of the way, all you have to do is heat up some oil and cook your tobanjang paste until it starts releasing some of the oil. Once that happens, add your minced pork. Over here, I'm using pork belly mince, and preferably you should use it as well because as soon as it hits the pan, it will start releasing some of that fat, and that fat will crisp up the belly fat as well as the meat, and it will taste absolutely amazing. Once your pork is cooked, you can add your broth and make sure that you mix in the tobanjan and the broth as thoroughly as you can. And that's it pretty much. As the broth comes to a boil, you can now start plating. First, you need to add your tare in the bowl, then your broth, and then your noodles. Now, if you think that my noodles are darker in color, that's because they are made of wheat. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to show you how to make wheat noodles because, to be honest with you, it was a failed experiment. When I do master how to make whole wheat noodles, I will definitely show you how to make them. But for now, sorry about it. Just have to show you guys that I have made these noodles. Lastly, we will garnish it with some green onions and pak choy, and of course, we will not forget to add our half-boiled egg. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you for watching this video. Until next time.